Hey, so there's been a lot of conversations happening around reparations. And somebody's like, why do African descendants of slaves need or deserve reparations? I'm glad you asked. Because of 200 plus years of slavery, then Jim Crow, segregation, all these types of systemic issues that were enacted against African descendants of slaves through policy and law. So what did that do? What were the consequences of that? Well, consequences of that, in one way, was a wealth gap. There was a study in Forbes that said between 1983 and 2013, the median income for a black family household went from $6,800 to $1,700, right? Already started low and went down. White families during that same period went from $102,000 to about $116,000. It increased. That's a huge disparity, right, in terms of what the household wealth is. And just so we're clear, wealth would be looking at all your bills, everything you owe, looking at all your assets, paying off of everything you owe, and this is what you have left, right? So what does reparations look like? Well, in my mind, it's a multi-pronged approach. Free college for African descendants of slaves, tax, not having to pay federal income tax, like some other people in America don't have to do, like Native people, indigenous people, no interest home loans, and there are a multiplicity of other things. It must be a multi-pronged approach. The reason I raise this conversation is because I don't think we're clear about what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. In my mind, it doesn't look like just like writing black folks a check. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. There also need to be financial literacy requirements for people of color, so that, or black folks specifically, so that we understand what to do when these things do happen. What happened at Morehouse is a great example of, erasing that debt that went away. And so now you have these young black men moving into their future, moving into the world without that debt hanging over them, which means they can invest in themselves, they can invest in their families, they can invest in businesses, and so forth and so on. So I think that the candidates running for Democratic nomination, or trying to get the nomination for the Democratic Party, need to have specific policies to address these things. You can call it reparations, you can look at it closing the wealth gap, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. There just needs to be something in place to fix this. Last thing, here's the why. By 2050, black and brown people combined will be the majority in America, more than white folks. Also, 25% of black people, if we stay on course, the course we're on right now, will be in the negative as it relates to wealth, right? That means you could sell everything you have and you still owe. So we have to put some policies in place to address these things. People use these anecdotes and they throw people off because they look at Oprah and Will Smith and LeBron, and they're doing well, right? But they ain't us. When I say us, they're not representative of what's happening with most black folks, right? And not that most people in America are rich. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that black people are disproportionately poor because of intentional policies and things that were put in place to make things that way. So do some reading, do some research, hold these candidates accountable, make some investments, do some things on your own to try to help remedy your own situation. But on a broader scale, we need things to happen from a legal perspective, from a law perspective, and a policy perspective that help to start to stop the bleeding, if you will, turn the tide, and move us in a more equitable direction. I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments. Leave them below. Peace.